Hi everybody, welcome back to All Things Airgun. Today I'm going to do a complete review of the Umarex Octane Elite 22 caliber. This is a break barrel spring piston air rifle, what people commonly refer to as a super magnum, or one that is a little more powerful than your usual break barrels, although that's becoming pretty common these days for these high-powered ones. What that really means is a standard break barrel, used to be 1,000 feet per second with lead pellets in 177, 800 feet per second with lead pellets in 22 caliber, using the same basic components to build those rifles. This is a step up from that. This one is advertised at 1,000 feet per second, or 1050 maybe, with lead pellets, but it doesn't actually shoot that fast. As you'll see in the chronograph testing I did, the RWS Hobby 11.9 grain lead pellet shot at a high of 937 feet per second. That's a good bit slower than what is advertised. And I find that is common in Umarex break barrel products. For me, they have always been underpowered. Some of them magnificently so, but I won't get into that yet. The rifle itself was $220. It sells for about that everywhere. Just to kind of go over the features of the gun comes with a silence air silencer, and it does a decent job. This is advertised as a 3 medium loudness, and I would agree with that. It's not quiet, but it's not loud either. It's suitable for the backyard, but your neighbor's gonna hear a noise, they're gonna be aware of something, but it's not obnoxious or anything like that. The barrel itself is 19 and a half inches long. It's a rifled steel barrel, and we'll get back to the barrels later. It has fiber optic sights, micro click adjustable rear for windage and elevation. It has a new stock with a flare in the middle of it, thumb hole, skeletonized, synthetic. It has the stop shock system, which means that the action and barrel free float in the stock. And the stop shocks itself is really just a set of springs that oppose each other. One pulls, one pushes, and the net result is equilibrium right now, but the action will move forward and backwards. See? And because of that, this gun should not be fired using the artillery hold. This is built-in artillery hold. This is the movement necessary that the artillery hold provides. And I love that. That's why I have this. I don't like the artillery hold. I just want to use the regular fundamentals of marksmanship that I learned in the Marine Corps and as a kid, using real rifles. So I am attracted to the engineering aspect of this, and I have to say it does work. You make a mistake if you try to use the artillery hold with this rifle. You need to actually hold it. But the gun has what is advertised as a 3.5 pound trigger that is adjustable, and the only thing that's adjustable is the amount of take up in what is referred to as the first stage, although that's not actually what it is. I don't have a trigger pull gauge, but I'll tell you right now, that's a downright lie. There's no way there's a 3.5 pound trigger on that. The take up is very obvious and easy. There is a solid wall, but that wall does not break at 3.5 pounds. It takes a decent amount of effort to break this trigger. If I had to guess, I would say at least 5 pounds. But the gun ships with a 3 to 9 by 40 adjustable objective scope that this rifle will destroy. I promise you. I have the Umarex throttle, which is the same stop shocks design, free floating action, and I've had 2 of them now. I don't want to get into the throttle ordeal in this video. I'll get to that separately, although I am going to address it a bit in this one. But the point is, the scope that ships with it will be destroyed at some point because of this free floating action. It's the acceleration. The accelerations experienced by this free floating action are great, and the scopes can't handle that. This is a Leapers UTG 3 to 9 by 40 adjustable objective, and it's fine so far. It has that true strength design or whatever, but it has held up and it works perfectly on this. If you're going to get one of these free floating action rifles, I highly suggest you get at least something in a Leapers UTG scope for it. Mine right now has that scope, and it has my Hawk flashlight, and the odd, if you noticed, the odd thing back here is this is an offset scope mount, set back, because using the standard rings, 2-piece rings that are not offset at all, you cannot pull this scope back far enough to achieve proper eye relief, and especially in conjunction with the cheek pad. Now this does have a more swollen cheek rest than the old Octane, but to actually have your face where it goes on this and the scope in the right place is impossible without a setback scope mount. So that's another thing you'll need if you want one of these rifles. I will wait till the end of the video to address the barrel issue, but this rifle has barrel issues. The Umarex throttles, I've had 2 of them, both in 22 caliber, have the exact same barrel issues, and we'll get to that. But first, this gun shoots most pellets between 22 and at the high end 25 foot-pounds of energy, with 23, 24 being average. It is decently powerful. The gun is usable. We'll say that. It is usable for what my needs are, which is 25 yards and under. As you'll see later, it's fairly accurate at 25 yards and below. And for pesting needs and for a little hunting, close range stuff, only shots, this rifle is adequate for that. It has a decent amount of power, and I can't take that away from it. The engineering that went into this free floating design is brilliant. It does away with the artillery hold. If you don't like the artillery hold, and if you don't know what that means, that's why you buy a break barrel rifle and you can't hit anything with it. And you're like, oh, it's the pellets, it's the scope, it's the this. No, it's you. You don't know the artillery hold. And I don't blame you. I didn't know at one point either. But the point is, I hate it. I hate the artillery hold. I know it's necessary for most standard spring piston, whether gas or spring, metal spring. It's pretty much a standard. It's a need, a necessity, but I don't like it, which is why I like this rifle, and it's the only reason I have one. We'll get to that later, but I'll show you the ballistics testing I did, the chronograph testing. I didn't test every pellet. I actually didn't even test every pellet I use in this video, but you have to forgive me for that. But I tested a lot, so you'll get a pretty good idea of what's going on. I'll run it for a few seconds, but you can use pause. Okay, have a look at that. Now, as you can see, it doesn't live up to the velocity claims. I didn't test it with alloy pellets because they're useless as priest balls, in my opinion. I don't use them. I have no use for them. I just don't have any need. I'm not spending the money for them. But with lead pellets, this does not achieve the manufacturer's claim, but it's good enough for my needs. That's all I can say. The HN Hornet, the Predator the HN Hornet is the most powerful pellet, and it's a fantastic hunting pellet with this rifle. It has expanded in animals for me. I know that for a fact. I recovered the projectile and saw it. It has also split raccoon skull for me quite easily, and that's exactly what I wanted for it. I wanted it for rather. I want it to absolutely positively pierce skull, and if it expands in an animal, all the better. And even in a body shot on a rat, only going through a couple inches of rat, it expanded within that amount of time, and I'm very impressed by that. That's my go-to hunting and pesting pellet. The most accurate pellet out of this rifle is kind of a toss-up, but in today's testing, the JSB 13.43 grain pellet won pretty handily. But I have good luck with the Air Arms 16 grain. I haven't been able to get resupply of the JSB 15.89 grains. Haven't tried them in this yet. The 18 grain JSBs do well in this. So do the Super Domes. They're not terrible, not great, but at 25 yards, it'll keep all of these pellets at a half-inch group or under, which is acceptable hunting accuracy. But the 25 yards is about the limit. I might take a 30-yard, even a 35-yard shot, but once you get past that, it opens up quickly. And I can't complain, I guess. It's a brake barrel, it's a spring piston, it's a deficient trigger, it's not a good trigger. And the scope itself isn't the best. The crosshairs are a little thick, in my opinion, but I'm sure if I had, a nice etched reticle and nice thin crosshairs, I might be able to get, 3/4 inch groups at 50 yards, but it's a 1-inch gun at 50 yards, 1 inch and over averages for the groups at 50 yards. So I'm going to have to call this one a 25-30 yard gun and under, at least in my hands. Maybe you shoot better than me, I don't know. But let's have a look at the accuracy testing. I'll only show the two most accurate pellets, one at 25 yards and one at 50 yards, and a little video summarizing everything. Let's have a look at that. Okay guys, I'm not going to bore you with every shot string and every measurement, but the gist of all of this is the two most accurate pellets out of this rifle for me are the JSB 13.43 grain at 25 yards here. My best group was 0.341 inches, which is easily smaller than a dime. That's less than 3/8. That's a little over 5/16 of an inch. So between 1/4 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch. The second most accurate are the air arms. This is a big 0.672 inch air arms, 16 grain. That's my fault. I buggered that. This is more typical. This is 0.412 inches with the 16 grain air arms, and I get them down to about this size most of the time, but for some reason today at 25 yards the 13.43s did better. But the RWS Superdome, it's about half an inch, 0.52. These are all 5-shot strings. The HN Field Target Trophy, less than a half inch, 0.483 inches. The 18 grain JSBs aren't bad either, 0.469. And these are all, you know, smaller than a dime. You know, even the field, well, maybe not quite them. But you know, the air arms is easy, a dime. Even the Superdome, pretty much a dime. But 25 yards, that's not too bad. I'll play the best shot, you know, video for you, best string. Now 50 yards, the limitations of this rifle become pretty evident. This is shots I just took at 50 yards. The best group here is the air arms 16 grain at 1.01 inches. That's this group right here. Now I was aiming here, but that's just where it, you know, happened to hit. The JSBs, the 13.43s, were second best at 1.22 inches, so a little bit less than an inch and a quarter. The JSB 18 grains did an inch and a half. The other 13.3 grain group here was 1.36 inches, but the air arms did the best. And again, that's typical. This rifle is pretty good for 25 yards. You know, it's a break barrel. It's not the most accurate thing in the world, so it has its limitations, but 25 yards all day, you know, with the right pellet. You know, you have to check for yourself if you get one, see what yours shoots best. But I can use the air arms 16s, the JSB 13s, you know, pretty much any of the pellets I tried today I could use, you know, to hunt with. So, but you know, obviously I'll use these or the air arms. But yeah, that's about the accuracy you can expect out of this rifle. Okay, now about this barrel. I'm going to show you first a picture of my first Umarex Throttle 22 barrel. After I saw this, it was never fired. It was just returned immediately for another one. I contacted Umarex about this, and that was months and months and months and months ago, and they never contacted me back. Not about that. So let's have a look at this picture. Okay, I assume you can see the little smiley face piece of metal or deformation or something going perpendicular across the rifling in the barrel. That's what we call in the business no bueno. Okay, that is not good. That is no good. So that rifle was immediately returned. and another Umarex throttle 22 caliber was sent to me with the exact same barrel issue, only not as bad. And I foolishly said to myself, well, I'm not going to fight over this again. I'll just make the best of it. And that rifle turned out to have other issues. It's very underpowered. It's only shooting about 13 foot-pounds. And I had scope issues with that one as well, but we'll handle that in another video. But anyway, here's a picture of the inside of this barrel on the Umarex Octane Elite 22. Now it's not as big and a little harder to see, but I hope you saw it. The exact same barrel issue. What is up with this issue? First of all, why are these rifles being shipped with this issue? A quick look down the barrel is all it would take to see this issue. Now, that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, why doesn't Umarex care? I've contacted them at least 3 different times just about that issue and have never heard back. Not one time. When I did hear back from Umarex, it was over my scope for the Umarex throttle. Like I said, I put the scope that shipped with it on the throttle, and within 3 shots, this is on the second throttle, not the first one, because I couldn't fire that one. It was too bad. The second one, I get that throttle, same barrel issue, decide whatever, I'll keep it. Put the scope on, and within 3 shots, the reticle spun inside the scope and destroyed it. So I had to send that scope back, and there's a whole other set of issues that go along with that. But I eventually did get a good scope from Umarex, and it took a while. But anyway, this rifle has that exact same barrel issue, as you saw. So, no matter how accurate this rifle may be, it is not as accurate as it could be if it did not have a defective barrel. But I already know Umarex doesn't seem to care about this. And for that and other reasons, I do not recommend that you buy one of these rifles. I don't. The company has issues with quality control at the least, customer service at the least, and possibly more issues than that, but I won't be accusatory. But anyway, I do not recommend you buy one of these rifles. I know they have barrel issues. All 3 I've had, 100% of them have had that exact same barrel issue. And Umarex does not only, they don't even acknowledge it, let alone do anything about fixing it. So there are very attractive things about this rifle. That's why I have one. The stop shocks and free floating action, that's the selling point for me. That's what I bought. I bought this engineering. The rifle is usable, like I said. It's powerful, but 25, 30 yards is all you're going to get out of it. Maybe if you get 1 in a million that has a perfect barrel without these barrel defects, you might get, ½ inch at 50 yards, but you won't get it out of this one. You won't get it out of either of my throttles. So, Umarex, if you're watching this, you have some work to do. I'm sure you remember my name. I wrote you a nice letter. That's how far that went. I actually wrote an old typed out letter on paper and sent it. But yeah, for whatever it's worth, for good or bad, this is my honest opinion. I'm obviously not sponsored by Umarex or anybody else, so this is my honest opinion and experience with this rifle, and I hope it's useful to you. Thanks for watching. Bye.